like to call tonight's regular meeting of council to order. Recommendation that the regular meeting be suspended and the committee of the whole meeting be convened. Moved by Councillor Morrow, second by Councillor Randhawa. All those in favor? Motion's carried. Okay, I'd like to call tonight's committee of the whole meeting to order. Recommendation that the agenda for the committee of the whole meeting of April 24th, 2017 be adopted as circulated. Moved by Councillor Niche, seconded by Councillor Randhawa. All those in favor? Any opposed? Motion's carried. Okay, if there's any members of the public who'd like to come speak to council on any topic of their choosing, can come forward now and ask questions. Okay, seeing none, I'd entertain a motion to adjourn and reconvene the regular council meeting. Moved by Councillor Cunningham, seconded by Councillor Niche. All those in favor? Motion's carried. Okay, I'd like to item 2, recommendation that the agenda for the regular council meeting of April 3rd, 2017 be adopted with additional item 6B, Strategic Priorities Fund, Fern Passage, Submarine Line. Moved by Councillor Kennedy, seconded by Councillor Randhawa. All those in favor? Any opposed? Motion's carried. Okay, item 3A, recommendation that the minutes of the special council meeting March 20th, 2017 be adopted. Moved by Councillor Cunningham, seconded by Councillor Randhawa. All those in favor? Any opposed? Motion's carried. 3B, recommendation that the minutes of the regular council meeting of March 20th, 2017 be adopted. Moved by Councillor Cunningham, seconded by Councillor Niche. All those in favor? Any opposed? Motion's carried. And item 3C, recommendation that the minutes of the committee of the whole meeting of March 20th, 2017 be adopted. Moved by Councillor Morrow, seconded by Councillor Niche. All those in favor? Any opposed? Motion's carried. Item 3D, recommendation that the minutes of the special council meeting of April 3rd, 2017 be adopted. Moved by Councillor Cunningham, seconded by Councillor Niche. All those in favor? Motion's carried. And item 3E, recommendation that the minutes of the special regular council meeting of April 11th, 2017 be adopted. Moved by Councillor Niche, second by Councillor Cunningham. All those in favor? Motion's carried.
On the recommendation for the adoption agenda, it says April 3rd. It actually should be today's date, should it not?
Yes, did I say
you
that
said
out
April?
too?
Yeah, you did.
Okay.
So I just wanted to make sure that
clerical error there, Mr. Mandrick. We'll say for the 24th. I read it as is. Thank you for that. Okay, first up, 6A, report from the community planner regarding application for development variance permits 405 5th Avenue East. Welcome back.
This is a request for a development variance permit for the property located at 405 5th Avenue East for the purpose of renovating a single-family residence that currently exists in non-conformance to setback standards of the Prince Rupert zoning bylaw. The application is to vary section 5.2.4 to decrease side yard setbacks from 1.2 meters to 0.46 meters along the west boundary of the property and 0.34 meters along the east property boundary. The proposed renovation of raising the residence by 4 feet would result in a further contravention of the setbacks of the Prince Rupert zoning bylaw. Therefore, a development variance permit is required for the proposed renovation to proceed as given by the Local Government Act. In effect, and just very briefly, a setback works like an imaginary line or an envelope in the airspace around a residence, so that the residence would further impinge on the side yard setback with a raising by 4 feet as a result of the current non-conformance scenario. And the rules of the Local Government Act don't allow alterations that further contravene. For analysis, the residence is located in a well-established neighborhood. The siting of this residence has existed since the house was built, approximately 1920s. or perhaps before. Therefore, this request is not deemed to adversely impact neighboring residences. Again, this nonconformance has existed for some time. In effect, the nonconformance has existed for approximately 100 years, and so it could be said that it's become part of the fabric of the neighborhood, and the proposed raising of the building by 4 feet will not it's not planned that proposal is to exceed the maximum building height. This application requests approval to proceed to public notification. And do you have any questions?
Question from council? Yep.
On your picture here, how far would that put up the... Are they raising raising it from the basement, or are they lifting the roof up and raising, and how far up is that going to take their eaves?
The dwelling is proposed to be raised from the basement, and the proposed building height is approximately 4 feet. And from email correspondence with the applicant, assurance was given that it would stay under the 9-meter maximum building height of this zone.
Councillor Nish?
I've talked to the fellow about it. Just a little bit of clarification. The reason mainly for doing this is because the existing basement actually has a substantial amount of water in it, and in order to get above the water table and the storm system, it needs to go up. And so to keep a basement in the house, it's basically raising the floor of the basement and then raising the house so that you still have a basement is essentially what he's trying to do.
Oh, okay. Councillor Cunningham?
It's not changing the footprint or anything, and it's enhancing the house and the neighborhood, so should be a no-brainer.
Yeah. Other comments? Okay, recommendation that the development of variant permit application number DP 1704 for 405 Fifth Avenue East proceed to public notification. Moved by Councillor Kinney, second by Councillor Cunningham. Further discussion? All those in favor? Any opposed? Motion's carried. Thank you very much. Okay, item 6B, additional late item. Report from our Director of Operations regarding the Strategic Priorities Fund. Welcome back.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The Operations Department has identified a grant that's available. It was released on April 3rd. It's from the UBCM. It's called the Strategic Priorities Fund. This is a 100% funded fund for a maximum of $6 million. This is for capital improvements. The City of Prince Rupert, or the Operations Department, is wanting to apply for the Fern Passage submarine line. That is the final puzzle piece in the supply line to the City of Prince Rupert's watershed. So the resolution is that Mayor and Council support the staff applying for this Strategic Priorities Fund. Thank you.
So just, sorry, go ahead. I was just going to say quickly before we push this up is that, so we've already received Phase 1 funding. Contract was tendered. Now we've received Phase 2 funding. So that would be whatever the timelines work out for that. And then this would be the final third phase. If this funding was approved, then that would be full funding. It wouldn't actually, the city wouldn't even have to contribute a third of it or anything like that. It would be the full funding, which would be huge for this community if we could secure all 3 phases. So good work on finding this fund, and I think you had something to say. To move the motion, okay, to approve the pass resolution to support staff in applying for the following grant. Okay, moved by Councillor Morrow, seconded by Councillor Nish. Further discussion?
I was just wondering, how much do you expect this line to cost? Is it more than $6 million?
Early estimates right now are between $5 and $6 million. I don't expect it to be over $6 million.
Further discussion? Okay, all those in favor? Any opposed? Motion's carried. Thank you. Let's cross our fingers that happens. Okay, we have 2 letters of correspondence here. Letter from the Northwest Community College dated March 30th regarding a letter of support for the BC Public Access to Defibrillation PAD program. So a motion to support. Moved by Councillor Ranhawa, second by Councillor Cunningham. Any discussion? Okay, all those in favor? Any opposed? Motion's carried. Item 7B, recommendation that Council proclaim April 28th, 2017 as National Day of Mourning in honor of the holiday and lower the flag at City Hall to half-mast in recognition of the OHS. I'm missing something there. Yeah, OHS. Right. Moved by Councillor Niche, second by Councillor Cunningham. Discussion? Okay, all those in favor? Any opposed? Motion's carried. Okay, we have 2 items from closed meetings. Spaulding.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. On March the 6th, 2017, at Council's closed meeting, Council appointed Mr. Alexander Hembrov, to a 2-year term to the Performing Arts Centre Society Board. And on April 3rd, 2017, at Council's closed meeting, Council appointed the following individuals to fill the outgoing Prince Rupert Airport Authority Board vacancies: Mr. Rory Mandrick, Mr. Paul Venditelli, Mr. Richard Pucci, and Mr. Cody Smith have been appointed to a 2-year term, with Mr. Venditelli being appointed as the chair.
Thank you very much. Okay, moving on to bylaws. Report from our city planner regarding a proposal to amend the Quality of Life Official Community Plan bylaw and zoning bylaw to permit senior multiple family housing project at 700 Green Street. Welcome back, Mr. Krajcik.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We received this application on February 23, 2017. The application is to amend Quality of Life Official Community Plan land use map from open space and park designation, which is this green area, to residential designation, which is this yellow area, as well as the zoning bylaw zoning map, which would amend the same area from P1, public facility zone, to RM2, multiple family residential zone. In fact, the stuff that I am showing you on the overhead are schedules to the bylaws which are attached in your report. The one for the zoning amendment is attachment number 2, and the one for the zoning official community plan amendment is attachment number 1. The subject property is located within a single family a single family residential zone consisting of mostly 1- and 2-story buildings. The property until 2001 accommodated a King Edward Elementary School, which was vacated in 2001 and sat vacant like this for a number of years until recently. It was demolished and site remediated, and these are some of the views of the vacant site. The attached application is very comprehensive. It really presents their application quite well. For the purposes of this report, the highlights that I isolated include: the proposed land use amendment is to specifically accommodate rental senior units, housing units. The applicant has undertaken a feasibility study which confirms the demand. The site proposes ample landscaping as shown on this plan, which includes common areas, pathways, and gardens. The area that you're seeing can accommodate 48 units. The application is to build 42 units. 10 of them which would be in a form of a typical townhouse development, and 2 pods of 16 which would be circled around the common area, which is in the middle, the hexagon in the middle. This application includes a number of details which are a part of development permit, including, and not necessarily exclusive to, environmentally sustainable and energy efficient design principles. However, the development permit and development variance permit are subject to this bylaw passing its and being adopted in a due course. In conclusion, to advance the application to and before proceeding to public hearing, the following steps are prudent. For the applicant to conduct an information meeting, which is akin to the method by which we advertised public hearings, meaning newspapers and 300 meters in circumference of the subject property. For the staff to conduct internal referrals, and for staff to conduct external referrals to Ministry of Transportation and Infrastructure. My conclusions are coined in the recommendations included in this report, which concludes my report, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Okay, questions from council? Councilor Morrow.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. I just have one question related to parking, and I guess it's more conceptual, but the only access point I see would be the one from 7th and then one off of Green Street. So correct me if I'm wrong, but there's no access to parking anywhere from 8th Avenue East.
No, so basically, so the townhouses, which is development here, are accessible from 7th Avenue East, and so you see these 2 driveways. This parking for this area in here is accessible from Green Street, from here, and the parkings are included inside here. So these are the parking areas.
Other questions? Councillor Randhawa.
Do they need any traffic report too, like traffic study?
In our review of the project, discussing it with the engineering department, we didn't see the requirement for the parking study for the number of for the traffic that this project will generate. Essentially, this is specifically for seniors, and as such, even the parking is reduced, meaning that our zoning bylaw requires 1 parking per 4 units rather than 1-to-1 as it is in an average multifamily dwelling. However, this will be referred to the Ministry of Highways, and the Ministry of Highways sees that there is a requirement for a traffic impact study. They will note so.
Councillor Thorgarson.
Just on parking, does this meet our parking requirements?
The proposal will meets our parking requirements.
Very good. Other questions? Well, I'm very excited to see this come forward. I think this is absolute big need in the community. There's no doubt about it. I'm looking forward to hearing what the public has to say and getting that community information meeting going. And it's a great looking design, and we'll see how the process goes. Anything further? Okay, moving the written recommendation. Okay, Councillor Moreau, seconded by Councillor Randhawa. Further discussion? Okay, all those in favor? Any opposed? Motion is carried. Thank you very much. Okay, item 9B, recommendation that Council adopts the 2017 5-year financial plan bylaw number 3413-2017. Moved by Councillor Niche, seconded by Councillor Cunningham. Any further discussion? Councillor Moreau.
I just wanted to ask a question in terms of process. and I apologize for missing the last couple meetings, but I had planned a vacation between the two regular meetings. So I was just I'm not sure if this is a question for you, Mr. Mayor, if it's for staff, but just what the process was for calling special meetings and why the timing ended up working out the way that it did, because, or at least from my eyes, it seemed that we could have done the financial plan at the prior regular scheduled meeting. So I'm just wondering kind of what the circumstances were and all of that.
Sure, I can answer that. I think the issue was making sure the faster we get the budget adopted is the faster we can get things going, obviously, but also that this week is NABOC and next week is the NCLGA. And so if we were to do the 1, 2, 3 this today and then try to schedule a special meeting for those 2 times, then we may have found more scheduling conflicts. So all it was to make sure that we could get on the final agenda today, the 5-year plan. And anything else to add there?
Yes, the way that the dates fell this year, March 31st was the final date that the BC assessment final numbers would come in, and April 3rd was the next council meeting in April. So we could not get direction from council in time by calculating out the change. So we had to wait until after that, see what the impacts were, and then be able to provide a report and put it on the agenda. So we had to call a special meeting after the first regular meeting in April. And for the other reasons that the mayor has already mentioned, that was the other reason that we prepared the bylaws at the time and called the special meetings when we did. It was to ensure that if there was any delays or other things that came up, we had enough time in case there was some additional requests of council, so it's built in so that we can have it all completed by May 15th.
Is that it? Okay, any further discussion?
I just thought that that it's interesting to look at page 62, and I think that the public needs to be aware of this, which is the reason I'm bringing it up. Is not because I disagree with it. It's already obviously been decided, and so this is page 62 in the 5-year financial plan. It's page 2 out of 13,
Wait.
And it shows that municipal property taxes only raise 26% of our revenue, and that user fees are another 26%, and the dividend that we've taken from Prince Rupert Legacy is 12%. Have a look in the future, once we use that legacy funding up in doing infrastructure works with it, then we are going to be having great difficulties again funding any kind of infrastructure work. So I think that we should certainly keep that in mind, and I know that council and particularly the mayor and staff has been working towards trying to find other ways, such as development on Ridley Island and other things to discussions with our with other companies that are coming in to develop about what we need to maintain the infrastructure in this municipality, and that just shows the importance of ensuring that we have companies who are coming here and establishing themselves on Ridley Island or in other areas that may not be under our worse still, such as Pacific Northwest was planning on, being in Port Edward taxation areas, that we need to be able to run this municipality by having those companies who are counting on their workers living in our community and accessing our services to be paying their fair share. And certainly that $7 million should be picked up in the future by companies who want to locate here. It's not something that you can see that homeowners could not pick that up. And the business community can't pick that up. It needs to be picked up by companies wanting to locate here, and they can't and should not be able to get away with locating here and not paying their fair share towards taxes.
Okay, any final comments? Okay, all those in favor? Any opposed? Motion's carried. Item 9C, recommendation that Council adopts the 2017 property tax bylaw number 3414, 2017. Moved by Councillor Kinney, second by Councillor Niche. Any discussion? Councillor Van Howitt?
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, I do understand. I agree with Councillor Thurkson about the expenses and using our legacy fund. On the other hand, we already increased 5% on the recreation fees this year, 3% on the utility fee, and people, especially on fixed income, it's pretty hard. Their income not increase accordingly. So I think we should. It's already passed, but we should think about that. It's too much for our community members.
Thank you. Any other comments? Okay, all those in favor? Any opposed? Motion's carried. Okay, 2 reports to give. First is from the Resource Benefits Alliance. Last year, 21 local governments and regional districts signed an MOU to enter into negotiations with the province on a regional benefits agreement from a share of the profits that are being generated, or the tax revenue being generated from regional resource development happening all around the north, whether it's forestry or mining or port developments, to be returned essentially to the communities in a fair share kind of arrangement similar to Northeast BC as well as the Columbian Basin, so that we can have a more steady flow of returned resources back to our communities. We have about hundreds of millions of dollars are being generated in the north, being passed down to Victoria. The current system in place is that we are communities supporting those industries. However, sometimes these industries are operating outside of municipal boundaries or regional district boundaries, and but are still impacting the area and are not required to pay into tax resources and things like that. However, the province is still getting their share of it, and then what ends up happening is that us as communities up here in the north have to compete with each other for grants, for infrastructure grants, for attention from the province, for a share of the money that we're generating essentially on their behalf. And what we're doing is we're coming together as 21 communities and essentially saying we would like some sort of guaranteed return of investment back to our community so that we can support our infrastructure needs, so we can support our infrastructure deficits, services, and what people in this community and communities all along the Northwest need to understand, that if we enter into agreement like this, that means that the tax burden isn't just on the local municipalities or the local residents to bear the burden of the cost. In fact, we would then have a guaranteed share, like Fort St. John, I believe, gets, I may be misquoting the number, but I believe it's over $20 million a year from their fair share of the agreements. And if I'm incorrect, if anyone can correct me, but I believe it's over $20 million a year coming directly from the fair share benefits agreement that they have up there. And that's just extra income into their community, which then they can put into roads and sewers and all those types of things on top of what they collect off taxes. So we're seeking to do a similar thing in the Northwest, or is a campaign underway to raise awareness around this. We're asking local candidates in every riding along the corridor what they believe, if they believe that they will fight for this as the local communities are doing that. And ultimately this will benefit everybody, and it's the right thing to do. It will benefit all of our communities greatly. I'm proud to be involved with it. I know this council is proud to be involved with it as well. And if this can be implemented and we can get the province to the table in a meaningful negotiation and get some sort of fair share back, then I think we'll see a lot of improvements happening in the Northwest Corridor, communities getting their fair share of money back, less stress on local municipalities, and us being able to increase services, help get our infrastructure deficits under order, those types of things. So there's lots of benefits from us going into it, but we need to get the province to the table in a meaningful negotiation. And we're raising awareness about this issue now, and going to continue to raise awareness about it after the election as well. I don't know if any other councillors want to add anything. Councillor Cunningham.
Just one thing. Fort St. John had put out a little blurb about how they were able to put $17.5 million into their repaving program. this year, and it didn't cost the taxpayers of the town 1 cent because the money was coming from their Resource Benefit Alliance in the Northeast. And the Southeast also has an alliance in place, so it's only fair. What we're going after is something other parts of the province already have, and it greatly impacts their infrastructure because they can fix it. Where we're struggling, and like the mayor says, we're competing with other towns in the same poor resource area when we're getting raped and plundered by the provincial government and not getting much back.
So just wanted to give an update on that, and there'll be videos coming out soon this week from the Alliance, and we'll be raising more awareness, which segues into my next report. I did a presentation at the Chamber of Commerce on Wednesday, last Wednesday, and explained to Chamber members and businesses in this community that the City of Prince Rupert has a unique circumstance where we are in a situation where we are losing $1.2 million a year due to the Port Property Tax Act, which caps all marine export industries taxes, and the fact that we have to transfer 20% of the revenue from Ridley Island to Port Edward. That between those two situations, that we are $1.2 million out and growing, and it's severely handcuffing this community's ability to move forward. We are not able to get on top of our finances the way we should, because of those agreements. If those agreements were over or changes happened to them, we'd be $1.2 million richer to be able to service this community better, to not have to be such a bind at every tax season, having to continually looking at our tax budget because we're transferring resources that should already be coming to the city to other areas. So right now we're actually in a renegotiation with the District of Port Edward over the Ridley Island tax sharing agreement. We're seeking to re-coordinate how the agreement is structured, as well as we are seeking to have Port Edward pay into shared services that they don't pay for, that in the City of Terrace, all the outlying communities pay the City of Terrace for shared services that they depend on. However, and for whatever reason, we're in a situation where that does not occur here. For example, Port Ed does not contribute to airport costs or the airport ferry costs, which costs us $1 million a year on a per capita basis. The library, the museum in northern BC. The City of Prince Rupert, through the regional district, contributes 40% of the museum, the North Pacific Cannery Museum, through the regional district. So we are paying into programs that we depend on. However, it's not a reverse situation. And so there's a renegotiation happening right now with Port Ed in the province, and we are also pushing with other communities that are affected by the Port Property Tax Act and the caps to ensure we either get a top-up of the competitiveness grant or some sort of restructuring of the cap itself. But it's something the community must be aware of, that number ends up being $1.2 million a year in loss, and we would have to raise taxes by 12% just to make up for the money we should probably already have as a community. And that money would go into restructuring the tax system here, because we know the businesses and residents are paying unproportionately more than major industry are due to that. As well as if we want to do things like redevelopment of the downtown core, waterfront development, increase services, build new parks, expand transit, all those wonderful things that everybody wants, then we need to have the community support the City of Prince Rupert's Council in identifying and addressing those problems. And we're going to be, over the next couple of weeks, you'll be seeing more coming out about that, and we will be addressing that more thoroughly, and that we believe it's just about fairness, and that we're placed in an unfair position, and we want to change the situation. So we'll be talking to the candidates as well about those situations, and we'll be certainly raising the awareness around these issues this coming year. So those are my two presentations to Council. Any things from Council themselves? Councillor Thorkelson.
Two things. I just wanted to remind you that you're holding a McKay Street presentation, and so those people who are watching us on the internet, instead of watching the debate of our possibilities for MLA, might want to know that you're holding this project tomorrow. The other thing is I think on the Resource Benefits Alliance, the port cap, and other things that are crucial to the economic development of our city and to the financial support of the city, is that we have decided to put questions forward on issues of certainly of the Resource Benefit Alliance and the port cap to candidates, so we can get their written response before the election day, so that people of Prince Rupert will know what the candidates and what their parties are planning to do about the Resource Benefit Alliance and about the port cap. So far, nothing has been done, and hopefully the governments are going to be changing their tune so that we actually, whether it's the Liberals who are re-elected or the NDP who becomes elected, that we are actually able to move forward on those plus other issues that we're asking questions on.
Thank you. Any further reports from council? I was going to say, okay, so the McKay Street Park, I'm not hosting that. Transition Prince Rupert is hosting the event. However, the recorded program here will be probably coming on after I even say this, but I will mention it anyways. So the McKay Street Park final designs have come through, and Transition Prince Rupert has led a community engagement process over the last year, has engaged the residents there, has engaged through presentations, placemaking workshop, a variety of mechanisms, and now the final designs coming out to the community tomorrow at 7 o'clock at the college. And then from there will be most likely a community-wide fundraising campaign that will take place, and Transition will update the community more thoroughly after this presentation. But it's exciting because it's a key area. I think it's a place that needs revitalization. The community's coming around it. The neighborhood's involved. This is all about Redesign Rupert. It's a part of the Redesign Rupert initiative as well. I think it's a wonderful thing, and looking forward to seeing the final reveal on that tomorrow. So, Councillor Callahan, you had a report?
Just a couple of quick questions, mostly for staff. I've been approached by a couple of people down at Rustbrook Parking about if it's possible to get a handicap parking place down there for handicapped people that are going out fishing. I should think they'd still have to pay the annual dues or that, but if it's possible, I'd like staff to try and look into it. I had asked staff at one of the meetings previously about our nuisance bylaw with the very strong smell of medical marijuana grow-ups, and we've been getting complaints at City Hall and the RCMP about it, and if our nuisance bylaw covers that obnoxious smell. And then the third thing, I'll throw it out there, it's kind of a nuisance type bylaw too, is we have some buildings in town here that are very unsightly. You know, the old Totem Theatre and things like that, and they're up for sale, some of them for $500,000, and I'm wondering if we can contact the owners and at least get them to steam clean them or clean the outsides or get them to look half decent. You know, we're on this redesign and rebuild Rupert, and then every time you turn a corner there's bloody ugly building looking at you, and I see no reason why they can't be, if they're being sold for those type of prices, they can't spend a little bit of money fixing them up.
Mr. Long?
Certainly the noxious odors is an issue that I think we can deal with as part of our unsightly premises, but we've referred a number of them to the RCMP first to find out if they're legitimate. So I think we're going to let that run its course in terms of what the RCMP can do. Some, I gather, are legitimate, but a number of them are not. So we'll leave that to them. The issue of unsightly premises is a difficult issue because we really don't have anything in the budget to actually clean up anything. And the problem is that the only thing we have is moral suasion, trying to convince these people to do it on their own. We don't actually have any teeth in our bylaw, or enough teeth in our bylaw to actually do it and charge it back, unless there's a health and safety issue really involved. So we continue to encourage people to clean their buildings and make them look good, and hope that they will do that. But there really isn't any way for us to force them to do it, per se.
Well, perhaps it could be just similar to what we did with the winter, which is sending a letter just saying, things are happening here. The town's starting to get going again, and, we can ask kindly, would you please be so kind to wash your building or at least improve the look of it while you're trying to sell it, because that'll also help them with that portion of it as well. So maybe that's something we could just do, is send a letter to certain buildings that we think that might need a little bit of TLC. Because I think it's correct. I think there's certain buildings that could use some pressure washing. I mean, the town has had no pride for quite a while after the mill closed. There's no doubt about that. But we need to revitalize the town. We need business owners that own those buildings to care about their buildings, their assets that they own. They chose those investments, and I think we can maybe work with them a little bit and just start at that place. It's kind of how they did the Paint Prince Rupert thing at one point in 2011. Let's get some steam going while we get things going again here in Rupert. Yeah, but
well, maybe if that's the case, then we should be looking at a bylaw with some teeth. Like unsightly premises. I know that a few individuals that have houses that are unsightly have been cited over the years, so I don't see why the downtown business couldn't either.
Yeah. That's a longer term discussion for sure. Okay, any last reports from councillors? Okay, motion to adjourn. Moved by Councillor Cunningham, second by Councillor Kinney. All those in favour? Any opposed? Motion's carried. Meeting adjourned.